Hello, everyone. Welcome to English in Advance. My name is Jessica, and I am your host for today. Whether you're commuting to work, taking a walk, or just relaxing with a cup of tea, you've chosen to invest this time in yourself and your English skills. And that's a wonderful thing. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation searching for the perfect word? You know what you want to say. You can feel the idea in your mind. But the words that come out feel a little too simple? Maybe you use words like good, bad, nice, or interesting a lot, and you feel like you're not truly expressing the depth of your thoughts. It's a common feeling, a plateau that so many English learners reach. You've mastered the grammar, you can communicate, but now you want to elevate your language. You want to sound more articulate, more precise, and more like a native speaker. If that sounds like you, then you are in exactly the right place. Today we are diving deep into an advanced English vocabulary masterclass. But don't let the word masterclass intimidate you. This isn't about memorizing a dictionary of obscure words you'll never use. This is about unlocking a new level of everyday English. We're going to explore powerful, sophisticated, and beautiful words that you can start using immediately in your daily conversations, your emails, and your professional life. We'll break them down, understand their nuances, and practice them together, so they don't just stay in your head, but become a natural part of your speaking and listening toolkit. This is your podcast for everyday English listening and speaking practice. So get comfortable, open your mind, and let's begin the journey to a more expressive you. Let's start with a word that perfectly describes many people's approach to learning: meticulous. meticulous, meticulous. This is a fantastic adjective to describe someone who is extremely careful and pays great attention to detail. It's much stronger and more specific than just saying someone is careful or thorough. A careful person might double-check their work. A meticulous person will triple-check it. Review every comma, ensure every detail is perfect, and probably organize it in a color-coded folder. For example, you could say, "My accountant is incredibly meticulous. She never misses a single detail on my tax forms." See how that paints a much clearer picture than saying she is good at her job? It tells you how she is good. Or imagine you're describing a beautiful piece of art. You could say, "The artist's meticulous brushstrokes created a stunningly realistic portrait." It implies a level of care and precision that is truly admirable. Now, let's practice. Think about a task you've done recently. Were you meticulous? Or think of someone you know who is very detail-oriented. It could be a friend, a family member, or a colleague. Try to form a sentence in your mind or even say it out loud if you can. For instance, "My friend is a meticulous planner. Our vacation itinerary was scheduled down to the minute." Taking a moment to connect a new word to your own life is one of the best ways to make it stick. From someone who is meticulous, let's move to a word that describes a certain personality type: gregarious. Gregarious. This adjective describes someone who is fond of company, sociable, outgoing, and friendly. It's a wonderful, warm word. Instead of just saying, "He's very social," you can say, "He's gregarious." It has a slightly more formal and sophisticated feel. You might hear it used like this: "Jessica is a gregarious person who is always the life of the party." Or, Despite being a famous author, he was a warm and gregarious man who loved talking to his readers. It suggests an energy and a genuine enjoyment of being around other people. The opposite of gregarious might be shy, introverted, or reclusive. So let's practice with this one. Do you consider yourself to be a gregarious person? Why or why not? Try to answer that question out loud in a full sentence. I think I am quite gregarious because I get my energy from being around other people. Or perhaps, I'm not particularly gregarious. I prefer quiet evenings with a small group of close friends. There's no right or wrong answer. The goal is just to use the word and feel comfortable with it. Now, let's connect these ideas. A meticulous person might not always be gregarious, and a gregarious person might not be meticulous. But what if you need to describe someone who is sensible and realistic, focused on practical results rather than abstract theories? The perfect word for this is pragmatic. 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 A pragmatic person is a problem solver. They look at a situation and think, okay, what is the most logical, practical solution here? They are less concerned with ideals or emotions and more focused on what will work. For example, while others debated the theoretical ethics of the project, our pragmatic team leader focused on finding a solution that would meet the deadline. This shows a contrast between theoretical thinking and practical action. Or a simpler example, buying a used car was a pragmatic decision. It saved us a lot of money. It was a sensible, practical choice. Let's think about how you can use this. Imagine you and your friends are planning a trip. One friend wants to visit a very exotic, expensive, and difficult-to-reach location. Another friend suggests a closer, more affordable destination that everyone can easily travel to. The second friend is taking a more pragmatic approach. Can you describe a time when you had to be pragmatic? Maybe at work or when making a personal decision? Try to formulate a sentence. Although I dreamed of a big wedding, we made the pragmatic choice to have a smaller ceremony and save for a house instead. See? It's about being grounded and realistic. Life often throws challenges our way, and our ability to bounce back is crucial. This brings us to our next powerful word, resilient. R-E-S-I-L-I-E-N-T, resilient. Being resilient means you are able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. It's about toughness, not just physical toughness, but emotional and mental toughness. It's a far more descriptive word than strong. You could say, children are often more resilient than adults. They seem to bounce back from disappointment so quickly. Or, in a professional context, our company proved to be resilient during the economic downturn, adapting to new market conditions and emerging stronger than before. It speaks to a capacity for recovery and adaptation. Think about this word in your own life. Think of a challenge you have faced. How did you overcome it? That act of overcoming, of not giving up, is a demonstration of resilience. Take a moment and try to complete this sentence. I showed resilience when Maybe it was when you didn't get a job you wanted, but you kept applying. Or when you moved to a new country and had to build a new life. Recognizing your own resilience is a powerful exercise. I showed resilience when I continued to practice my English even when I felt frustrated. That's a perfect example. Now, let's shift from personal qualities to how we describe situations. Sometimes an event happens that is completely unexpected and without any previous example. The word for this is unprecedented. unprecedented, unprecedented. It literally means never done or known before. It's a word you hear a lot in the news because it's used to describe major novel events. For example, the global response to the pandemic was unprecedented in its scale and speed. This means nothing like it had ever happened before. Or, the company saw unprecedented growth last quarter, shattering all previous sales records. It highlights the unique and record-breaking nature of the event. Be careful not to overuse this word for small things. A long queue at the supermarket is probably not unprecedented, but a technological breakthrough that changes society could be. Let's practice. Can you think of an event in history or even in your own life that was truly unprecedented? Try to describe it. The invention of the internet led to an unprecedented level of global connectivity. That's a great use of the word. It captures the magnitude of the change. Sometimes an unprecedented event can present a major challenge. A word to describe such a challenge is formidable. 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 This adjective describes something that inspires fear or respect through being impressively large, powerful, intense, or capable. It's not just difficult, it's difficult on a grand scale. You could face a formidable opponent in a sports match, meaning they are very skilled and hard to beat. Or a company might face a formidable challenge in trying to enter a new market dominated by a huge competitor. Climbing Mount Everest is a formidable task that requires months of training and preparation. You can also use it to describe a person in a positive way. She has a formidable intellect. She can solve problems that stump everyone else. This is a compliment, meaning her intelligence is very impressive. Think about a goal you have. Perhaps learning English feels like a formidable challenge at times. It's big, it's powerful, and it requires a lot of effort. Acknowledging that can be the first step. Try this sentence. Mastering a new language is a formidable goal, but I am determined to achieve it. By using the word, you are accurately describing the scale of your ambition, which is something to be proud of. But not all situations are difficult. Sometimes things seem to be starting off perfectly, promising a good future. In this case, you could use the word auspicious, auspicious. Auspicious. This means conducive to success, favorable. It's a sign that good things are coming. It's a lovely positive word. For instance, the sunny weather on their wedding day felt like an auspicious start to their marriage. Or the company's new product had an auspicious debut, with sales exceeding all expectations in the first week. It's often used to describe beginnings. An auspicious start, an auspicious beginning, an auspicious moment. The opposite would be inauspicious. Starting the day by spilling coffee all over my laptop was an inauspicious beginning. Let's practice. Think about a new beginning in your life. A new job, a new friendship, a new project. Did it have an auspicious start? Try to describe it. My first day at my new job was very auspicious. My colleagues were welcoming, and my boss was incredibly supportive. It's a wonderful way to express optimism about the future. And what about those happy accidents? Those moments of finding something good without looking for it? The perfect word for this is serendipitous. Serendipitous. A serendipitous discovery is a fortunate accident. The noun is serendipity. Imagine you're wandering through an old bookstore and you stumble upon a rare signed copy of your favorite book. That's a serendipitous find. Or, Our meeting was completely serendipitous. We were both taking shelter from the rain in the same cafe and struck up a conversation that led to a lifelong friendship. It wasn't planned, it was a happy chance. Many scientific discoveries have been serendipitous, like the discovery of penicillin. Can you think of a serendipitous moment in your own life? A time when you found something wonderful by chance? It was serendipitous that I missed my bus, because I met my future husband while waiting for the next one. It's a beautiful word that captures the magic of unexpected good fortune. Let's now move into the realm of communication and expression. How we speak and express our ideas is so important. A great word to describe someone who speaks clearly and effectively is articulate, articulate, articulate. As an adjective, it means having or showing the ability to speak fluently and coherently. As a verb, it means to express an idea or feeling fluently and coherently. So you could say, she is a highly articulate speaker who can explain complex ideas in a simple way. That's a huge compliment. Or, as a verb, he found it difficult to articulate his feelings of grief. This means he struggled to put his emotions into words. Being articulate is a key skill for leaders, teachers, and anyone who needs to communicate effectively. This is a goal for all of us learning English, isn't it? To be more articulate. Let's try to use it. Think about someone you admire for their speaking ability, a politician, a celebrity, a teacher. Why do you admire them? I admire her because she is always so articulate, even when answering difficult questions. Now think about yourself. What is one idea you would like to be able to articulate more clearly in English? Just thinking about this helps you focus your learning goals. Sometimes the goal isn't to say a lot, but to say something briefly and clearly. The word for this is succinct. S-U-C-C-I-N-C-T. Succinct. If something is succinct, it's briefly and clearly expressed. It's a very positive word, especially in business and professional writing. People appreciate succinct emails and succinct presentations. It's the opposite of being wordy or rambling. For example, his report was succinct and to the point. It gave us all the information we needed in just 2 pages. Or, please try to be succinct in your answer. We only have a few minutes left. It implies efficiency and clarity. How can you practice this? Try summarizing something in a succinct way. Think about your favorite movie. Can you describe its plot in 1 or 2 succinct sentences? For example, a young farm boy joins a rebellion against a tyrannical galactic empire. That's a very succinct summary of Star Wars. It's a great skill to practice, forcing you to choose your words carefully. However, sometimes communication is the opposite of succinct and articulate. Sometimes it's unclear. The word for this is ambiguous. A-M-B-I-G-U-O-U-S. Ambiguous. Something that is ambiguous is open to more than one interpretation. It doesn't have one obvious meaning. It can be confusing. For instance, the politician gave an ambiguous answer to the journalist's question, so no one was really sure of his position. Or, the ending of the film was ambiguous. The audience was left to wonder about the main character's fate. Ambiguity can be used deliberately in art and literature to make the audience think, but in instructions or legal documents, it can be a big problem. Let's think about this. Have you ever received ambiguous instructions? How did it make you feel? Probably confused or frustrated. The instructions for assembling the furniture were ambiguous, and we ended up putting the doors on backwards. Trying to describe that feeling of confusion helps you remember the meaning of the word. Now let's explore some words that describe feelings and emotions with more nuance. Instead of just happy, what if you feel a thrilling, joyful excitement? The word is exhilarated. Exhilarated. It's that feeling of being full of energy, excitement, and happiness. You would feel exhilarated after riding a roller coaster or after finishing your first marathon. I felt absolutely exhilarated when I reached the summit of the mountain and saw the view. It's a very strong, powerful feeling of joy. It's more than just happy. It's a rush of adrenaline and elation. Think of a time you felt this way. What were you doing? Close your eyes and try to recall that feeling. Then put it into a sentence. After giving a successful presentation to a huge audience, I felt completely exhilarated. Connecting a word to a strong personal memory is an incredibly powerful learning technique. On the other end of the emotional spectrum, what about a feeling of quiet, thoughtful sadness? A word for this is melancholy. 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 It describes a pensive sadness, typically with no obvious cause. It's a gentler, more poetic word than just sad. A rainy afternoon can feel melancholy. A certain song might evoke a feeling of melancholy. You could say, "There was a feeling of melancholy in the old house," as if it remembered happier times. Or, "He was in a melancholy mood staring out the window and lost in thought." It's not a strong, crying sadness, but a deeper, more reflective state of mind. It's often associated with beauty and nostalgia. Do you have a song or a movie that makes you feel a little melancholy? What is it? That old song always fills me with a sweet melancholy for my childhood. The word sweet is often paired with it because it's not always an entirely negative feeling. What about the feeling of being worried or anxious about the future? A great word for this is apprehensive. 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 It means anxious or fearful that something bad or unpleasant will happen. It's a very specific kind of worry, one that is focused on a future event. You might feel apprehensive before a big exam, a job interview, or a visit to the dentist. I'm feeling a bit apprehensive about the presentation tomorrow. I'm worried I'll forget my lines. It's a bit more formal than saying, "I'm nervous." It captures that sense of dread and uncertainty about what's to come. Let's practice. What is something in the near future that you might feel apprehensive about? It could be small or large. Many people feel apprehensive about flying, especially during turbulence. Or, she was apprehensive about moving to a new city where she didn't know anyone. Naming the feeling with a precise word can actually help you manage it. Let's now turn our attention to words that we can use to express our opinions with more sophistication. When you find an argument very convincing and easy to believe, you can describe it as plausible. plausible, plausible. It means seeming reasonable or probable. If your friend is late and tells you there was a lot of traffic, that is a plausible explanation. It's believable. The police were looking for a suspect with a plausible motive for the crime. This means a motive that makes sense. The opposite is implausible. If your friend says they were late because they were abducted by aliens, that is an implausible explanation. Think about a movie you saw recently. Was the plot plausible? Did the characters' actions seem believable? Although it was a science fiction movie, the scientific principles it was based on were surprisingly plausible. This is a great way to critique or review something. On the other hand, if an argument or a connection is very weak and slight, the word is tenuous. 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 It means very weak or slight, insubstantial. It's often used to describe a connection, a link, a relationship, or a grasp on something. For example, the link between his theory and the actual evidence is tenuous at best. This means the connection is very weak and not well supported, or after the argument, their friendship was on tenuous ground. It suggests a fragility that it could easily break. You might also hear of someone having a tenuous grasp on reality, meaning they are not thinking clearly. This is a fantastic word for academic or professional discussions. Try to use it. The prosecution's case was based on a few tenuous pieces of evidence, so the defendant was found not guilty. It immediately signals weakness and lack of substance. What if you have mixed feelings about something? You see both the good and the bad sides, and you can't really decide. The word for this state is ambivalent. Ambivalent. It means having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas about something or someone. It's different from being undecided, which just means you haven't made a choice yet. Being ambivalent means you simultaneously feel pulled in two different directions. I'm ambivalent about the new job offer. The pay is excellent, but it would mean moving away from my family. See? You feel both positive and negative things at the same time. Or, many people are ambivalent about technology. They love the convenience but worry about its impact on society. This is a very common human experience. Can you think of something you feel ambivalent about? A new law, a change at your company, a decision a friend made? I feel ambivalent about social media. It connects me with old friends, but I also think it can be a waste of time. Expressing this complexity makes your opinion sound much more thoughtful. But what if your opinion is the exact opposite of ambivalent? What if you are completely certain, with no doubt whatsoever? The adverb you can use is unequivocally. Unequivocally, unequivocally. It means in a way that leaves no doubt. It's a very strong and formal way to say absolutely or definitely. The adjective is unequivocal. You might hear a leader say, I can state unequivocally that we are committed to solving this problem. It's a powerful statement of certainty. Or, in a review, this is unequivocally the best film of the year. There is no room for doubt in the reviewer's mind. Let's practice its power. Think of an opinion you hold very strongly. It could be about anything: food, music, politics, sports. Now, try to state it using unequivocally. Chocolate is unequivocally the best flavor for ice cream. Or, education is unequivocally the most important tool for social progress. It adds a huge amount of weight and conviction to your statement. Now, let's add a few more versatile words to our vocabulary toolbox. A word that is incredibly useful is ubiquitous. 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 It means present, appearing, or found everywhere. A synonym could be everywhere or pervasive, but ubiquitous sounds more formal and impactful. In our modern world, smartphones have become ubiquitous. You see them everywhere. The company's logo is ubiquitous. It's on everything from billboards to coffee mugs. Or, in the summer, the sound of cicadas is ubiquitous in this region. It describes something that is so common it's almost impossible to avoid. What is something that is ubiquitous in your city or country? It could be a type of food, a style of architecture, or a particular brand. In my city, coffee shops are ubiquitous. There seems to be one on every corner. It's a great word for describing a cultural landscape. Sometimes we need to describe something that is the most perfect or typical example of a quality or class. The word for this is quintessential. Quintessential. It means representing the most perfect or typical example of something. For example, he is the quintessential gentleman, always polite, kind, and well-dressed. This means he is the perfect model of a gentleman. Or, a trip to Paris would not be complete without visiting the Eiffel Tower, the quintessential symbol of the city. It captures the very essence of something. What do you consider the quintessential food of your country, or the quintessential movie of a particular genre? For me, a good detective novel with a clever mystery and a surprise ending is the quintessential form of entertainment. This shows a deep understanding and appreciation of the subject. Let's consider another useful word for describing things: ephemeral. E-P-H-E-M-E-R-A-L, ephemeral. This adjective means lasting for a very short time. It's a beautiful, slightly poetic word. It's often used to describe things in nature, like the ephemeral beauty of a cherry blossom in spring or the ephemeral morning mist. But it can also be used for other things. The fame of a reality TV star is often ephemeral. They are famous one day and forgotten the next. Or, I tried to capture the ephemeral moment of the sunset with my camera, but the colors faded too quickly. It highlights the temporary, fleeting nature of something. Think about something you've experienced that was ephemeral. A beautiful moment, a feeling, a brief success. Childhood is an ephemeral time, which is why we cherish the memories so much. Using this word adds a layer of depth and philosophical reflection to your statement. Now, let's talk about people's actions. What do you call someone who helps others, especially by donating money to good causes? They are a philanthropist. The act is philanthropy, P-H-I-L-A-N-T-H-R-O-P-Y. It comes from Greek roots meaning love for mankind. A person who engages in this is a philanthropist. Bill Gates is a well-known philanthropist, donating billions of dollars to global health initiatives. It's more specific than just saying he is generous. It refers to a large-scale, organized effort to improve human welfare. The new wing of the hospital was funded by local philanthropy. This is a good word to know for discussions about current events, economics, and society. Think about a cause you care about. If you had unlimited money, what kind of philanthropy would you engage in? If I were a philanthropist, I would focus on providing educational opportunities for underprivileged children. Let's switch gears to a word describing a negative trait. If someone is extremely stubborn and refuses to change their mind or course of action, even when there are good reasons to do so, they are obstinate. O-B-S-T-I-N-A-T-E, obstinate. It's a stronger, more negative word than stubborn. Stubborn can sometimes have a slightly positive connotation, like being determined. Obstinate is almost always negative. He is obstinate in his refusal to admit he was wrong, even when faced with all the evidence. Or, the donkey was obstinate and would not move no matter how much they pulled. It implies a resistance to reason. Do you know someone who can be a bit obstinate? Or have you ever been obstinate about something? I admit I was being obstinate about following the GPS, and as a result, we got completely lost. It's a good word for self-reflection too. Now let's look at a word for something that is a bit of a mystery. An enigma. E-N-I-G-M-A. An enigma is a person or thing that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to understand. It comes from a Greek word meaning riddle. You could say, the reason for the ancient civilization's collapse remains an enigma to historians. Or you could use it to describe a person. My boss is a complete enigma. One moment she is friendly and laughing, and the next she is silent and distant. It suggests a complexity that is hard to figure out. Think about a mystery, big or small, maybe a historical event, or even the plot of a confusing movie. You could describe it as an enigma. For many scientists, the nature of consciousness is still a profound enigma. It's a word that conveys a sense of wonder and intellectual curiosity. Before we conclude our masterclass for today, I want to leave you with one final, very important word: conscientious. 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 This describes someone who wishes to do their work or duty well and thoroughly. A conscientious person is guided by their conscience. They are diligent, careful, and ethical. It's related to meticulous, but it has an added moral dimension. A meticulous person pays attention to detail. A conscientious person pays attention to detail because they feel it is the right thing to do. She is a very conscientious student who always completes her assignments to the best of her ability. Or, the company has a reputation for being conscientious about its environmental responsibilities. This is a highly complimentary word. To be called conscientious is a great honor. Think about your own work or studies. Do you strive to be conscientious? Being a conscientious language learner means not just memorizing words, but also understanding their nuance and practicing regularly. That is exactly what we have been doing today. We've covered a lot of ground, from words describing people like gregarious and pragmatic, to situations like unprecedented and auspicious, to feelings like exhilarated and melancholy, and opinions using words like plausible and ambivalent. My hope is not that you have memorized every single one of these words perfectly. The goal is to plant a seed. You have now heard these words, you have understood their meaning, and you have connected them to your own life. The next step is crucial. Now, you need to start noticing them. When you are reading an article, watching a movie, or listening to a podcast in English, listen for these words. When you hear one, you'll feel a spark of recognition. Tenuous. I know what that means. That is a fantastic moment in language learning. Then, the step after that is to try using one. Just one. Maybe in an email tomorrow you can describe a plan as pragmatic. Or in a conversation with a friend, you could describe a beautiful view as ephemeral. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every attempt is a step forward. Learning advanced vocabulary is like adding new colors to your palette as a painter. With just a few basic colors, you can paint a picture, and people will understand what it is. But with a full range of colors and shades, you can add depth, nuance, shadow, and light. You can express yourself with precision and beauty. You can paint a masterpiece. Your English is that masterpiece, and you are the artist. Welcome back, or if you're continuing with me, let's take a deep breath and dive right back in. We've built a fantastic foundation, and now we're going to construct the next level of our vocabulary skyscraper. We've talked about people, situations, and emotions. Now let's get practical and move into a domain where the right word can make all the difference: the world of work, business, and negotiation. These are words that convey power, precision, and strategy. Let's begin with a word that is all about power and influence: leverage. Leverage, leverage. As a noun, leverage refers to the power to influence a person or situation to achieve a particular outcome. Think of a simple lever, a tool you use to lift a heavy object with minimal effort. In a negotiation, your leverage is the tool, the advantage you have that allows you to influence the other party. For example, the company's strong patent portfolio gave it significant leverage in the negotiations with its competitor. This means their patents were a powerful advantage. You can also use it as a verb. She leveraged her extensive experience in marketing to secure a higher starting salary. This means she used her experience as an advantage to get what she wanted. It's a sophisticated way of saying used. This word is all about strategy. It's not just about having an advantage, but about knowing how and when to use it. Think about a time you were trying to persuade someone. What was your leverage? Did you have information, a skill, or a relationship that gave you an advantage? Try to form a sentence. As the only person who knew how to use the new software, I had some leverage when it came to assigning tasks for the project. Understanding your leverage is the first step to a successful negotiation. Now, in any good negotiation, you can't just use leverage. You also have to be willing to give something up. This brings us to the verb concede, C-O-N-C-E-D-E. Concede. To concede means to admit that something is true or valid after first denying or resisting it. It can also mean to surrender or yield something that you have. In a debate, a speaker might say, I concede that my opponent has a valid point about the budget, but I believe my solution is still the better one. Here, you are admitting the truth of something. In a negotiation, it's about giving something up. After hours of discussion, the management agreed to concede on the issue of flexible working hours in order to reach an agreement. They yielded that point. When a candidate loses an election, they make a concession speech, where they concede the victory to their opponent. Conceding is not always a sign of weakness. Often it's a strategic move to show you are reasonable and to get something in return. Think about a simple disagreement you had with a friend about where to go for dinner. Did you concede? I wanted Italian, but my friend really wanted Thai. So I conceded and we went for Thai food. It's a common, everyday act. When you are making an agreement, you often need to state a condition that must be met. The formal verb for this is stipulate. S-T-I-P-U-L-A-T-E. Stipulate. To stipulate means to demand or specify a requirement, typically as part of an agreement. It's a very precise and formal word you would find in contracts and legal documents. For example, the contract stipulates that the work must be completed by December 31st. This is a required condition. Or, the celebrity's writer stipulated that she must have a specific brand of sparkling water in her dressing room. It's a non-negotiable demand. When you stipulate something, you are making it an essential part of the deal. Let's practice this formal word. Imagine you are hiring a freelance designer for a project. What is one condition you would stipulate in the contract? Try to say it out loud. I would stipulate that I must be allowed to review 3 different versions of the logo before making a final decision. Using a word like stipulate instead of say or ask for makes the condition sound much more official and serious. Of course, the goal of most negotiations is to end on good terms. You want to reach a friendly conclusion. The word for this is amicable. A-M-I-C-A-B-L-E. Amicable. This adjective describes relations between people that are friendly and without serious disagreement. It comes from the Latin word amicus, which means friend. You often hear this word used to describe separations or divorces that are handled without fighting. Despite their business partnership ending, they manage to have an amicable split and remain friends. It suggests maturity and respect. You could also say the two countries reached an amicable agreement on their border dispute, avoiding any conflict. It emphasizes a peaceful and cooperative spirit. An amicable resolution is always the best-case scenario. Think about a disagreement you resolved. Was it amicable? Although my neighbor and I disagreed about the fence, we had a calm conversation and found an amicable solution that worked for both of us. It's a wonderful goal for any kind of conflict resolution. However, sometimes decisions are not made through careful, amicable negotiation. Sometimes they seem to be based on random choice or personal whim rather than any reason or system. The word for this is arbitrary, A-R-B-I-T-R-A-R-Y, arbitrary. An arbitrary decision is one made without a clear reason or logic. For example, the dictator was known for making arbitrary arrests, imprisoning people for no apparent reason. This is a very negative use of the word. It can also be more neutral. The committee had to make an arbitrary choice between two equally qualified candidates, or the way the teams were divided for the game seemed completely arbitrary. It implies a lack of a system. When rules seem arbitrary, people can become frustrated because they feel unfair. Can you think of a rule you've encountered that seemed arbitrary? Perhaps a dress code or a company policy. The rule that we could only use blue pens and not black ones seemed totally arbitrary and served no practical purpose. Identifying something as arbitrary is often the first step to questioning its validity. So imagine a short business story. A small startup was in negotiations with a large corporation. The startup had significant leverage because they owned a unique piece of technology. The corporation tried to make arbitrary demands, but the startup held firm. Eventually, to reach an amicable agreement, the startup had to concede on the price. In return, the final contract stipulated a 5-year partnership. See how these words work together to tell a precise professional story? Let's transition now from the boardroom to the library, from the world of deals to the world of ideas. How we talk about information, knowledge, and arguments is a key part of sounding intelligent and educated. These words will help you discuss concepts with greater clarity. First, let's talk about a word used to describe a foundational, highly influential piece of work. The word is seminal, S-E-M-I-N-A-L, seminal. A seminal work, such as a book, paper, or study, is one that is original, important, and has a strong influence on later work. Think of a seed from which many other ideas grow. For instance, Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species was a seminal work that transformed the field of biology. Or, in a different field, The Economist's seminal paper on behavioral finance changed how everyone thought about the stock market. Calling something seminal is a very high compliment, suggesting it created a new way of thinking. It's much stronger than just saying important or influential. Think about a field you are interested in. It could be science, art, music, or film. What is a seminal work in that field? What book or movie or album influenced everything that came after it? For many filmmakers, Citizen Kane is a seminal film that introduced new cinematic techniques. Now, what about ideas that are the opposite of influential and widely known? What if an idea is understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge? The word for this is esoteric, esoteric, esoteric. Esoteric knowledge is intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized interest. You might say, he was having a conversation with his fellow physicists about esoteric concepts like quantum entanglement. It would be very difficult for an outsider to understand, or she has a rather esoteric taste in music, listening to obscure bands that almost no one has heard of. It implies a level of niche, specialized knowledge. It's not necessarily a negative word, but it does suggest a lack of accessibility to the general public. Is there a hobby or topic you know a lot about that might seem esoteric to others? Perhaps the rules of a complex board game or the details of a particular historical period. My uncle loves to discuss the esoteric details of stamp collecting, a subject I know very little about. It's a great word for describing deep, specialized knowledge. In science and research, we value ideas that are based on observation and experience, not just theory. The word for this is empirical. empirical, empirical. Empirical evidence or data is based on, concerned with, or verifiable by observation or experience rather than theory or pure logic. A scientist would say, while your theory is interesting, we need empirical evidence to support it. This means we need data from experiments or real-world observations. The study was based on empirical research, including surveys of over 5,000 people. It gives the research credibility and a foundation in reality. This is a crucial concept in our modern world where we are bombarded with information. It's important to ask, is this claim based on empirical evidence? Think about a common belief. Is there empirical evidence to support it? There is a great deal of empirical evidence to suggest that regular exercise is beneficial for both physical and mental health. This is a powerful way to state a fact. When an argument is not based on good evidence, it might be based on a fallacy. Fallacy. A fallacy is a mistaken belief, especially one based on an unsound argument. It's a failure in reasoning that makes an argument invalid. There are many types of logical fallacies, but the word itself is very useful. For example, the idea that you'll catch a cold from being in the rain is a common fallacy. Colds are caused by viruses. Or, in a more critical thinking context, his entire argument was based on a fallacy, so his conclusion was incorrect. Pointing out a fallacy is a way of deconstructing a weak argument. This is a great word for thinking critically. When you hear an advertisement or a political speech, listen for fallacies. Is the person making a sound argument, or are they trying to trick you with faulty logic? It's a fallacy to assume that because a product is expensive, it must be of high quality. This is known as the appeal to wealth fallacy. Often, complex topics are presented as a simple choice between two opposite things. This is known as a dichotomy. dichotomy. A dichotomy is a division or contrast between two things that are or are represented as being opposed or entirely different. For example, people often speak of the dichotomy between science and religion, or the dichotomy between work and leisure. The film explores the dichotomy between good and evil in human nature. However, smart thinkers often challenge dichotomies. They might argue that the situation is more complex. Her research challenges the traditional dichotomy between emotion and reason, suggesting they are actually deeply interconnected. Think about a common dichotomy: nature versus nurture, art versus commerce. Is it really an either-or situation, or is there a middle ground? Presenting the issue as a simple dichotomy between saving the economy and protecting the environment is an oversimplification. We need to find a way to do both. This shows a nuanced and sophisticated level of thinking. Let's try to put some of these words into a short scenario. Imagine two university students discussing a professor's lecture. One student says, "I found her lecture on the mind-body dichotomy a bit too theoretical." The other replies, "I agree. She presented the seminal work of Descartes, but she didn't offer any new empirical evidence. It feels like a fallacy to ignore modern neuroscience." The first student adds, "Yes, some of her references were so esoteric, I couldn't even find them in the library." This short dialogue allows them to express complex academic opinions with great precision. Finally, let's enrich our vocabulary for the most important area of all, our daily interactions with other people. Having nuanced words to describe social situations and personal qualities can make you a more empathetic and effective communicator. Let's start with a highly valuable social skill: being tactful. Tactful. Someone who is tactful has or shows tact, which is the skill and sensitivity in dealing with others or with difficult issues. A tactful person knows how to say the right thing or how to say a difficult thing in a gentle way to avoid offending someone. Imagine your friend gives a terrible presentation. An untactful person might say, "Wow, that was awful." A tactful person might say, "That was a really brave effort." I have a few ideas for how you could make the next one even stronger if you're open to hearing them. See the difference? She was very tactful when she pointed out the error in my work, so I didn't feel embarrassed at all. The noun is tact. He has no tact. He just says whatever is on his mind. Being tactful is a form of social intelligence. Think about a time you had to deliver bad news or criticism. Did you try to be tactful? It required a lot of tact to tell my colleague that his contributions to the project were not up to standard. It's a skill worth practicing. Now, let's consider a word for a certain kind of cool, calm attitude. The word is nonchalant. 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 If you are nonchalant, you are feeling or appearing casually calm and relaxed, not displaying anxiety, interest, or enthusiasm. It can be a positive trait, suggesting confidence and a lack of panic. It can also be negative, suggesting you don't care enough. For example, he walked into the job interview with a nonchalant air, as if he already knew he would get it. This suggests a cool confidence. Or, in a more negative light, I was shocked by her nonchalant reaction to the bad news. It was like she didn't care at all. The key is the appearance of being unconcerned. Think of a character in a movie who is very nonchalant. James Bond is often very nonchalant in the face of danger. Try to describe a situation where you tried to appear nonchalant. Even though I was incredibly nervous, I tried to give a nonchalant shrug when my name was called to go on stage. Sometimes people try to be funny about a serious topic. This can be described as being facetious. 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 A facetious comment is one that treats serious issues with deliberately inappropriate humor. It's flippant. It's important to distinguish this from just being funny or sarcastic. A facetious remark is specifically about making light of something serious. If someone's company is going bankrupt and you say, "Well, look on the bright side, now you'll have more free time," that would be a very facetious comment. It's inappropriate humor for the situation. His facetious remarks were not appreciated during the serious budget meeting. It's often used as a criticism. Be careful with this word. If you say to someone, "I was just being facetious," it's an admission that your joke was probably a bit out of line. Can you recall a time when someone made a facetious comment? How did it make people feel? He thought he was being funny, but his comments about the political crisis were just facetious and offended everyone. Let's move to a word that describes a deep and touching sadness. The word is poignant. Poignant, poignant. Something that is poignant evokes a keen sense of sadness or regret. It's a beautiful word for a very specific, touching kind of sadness, often mixed with memory or nostalgia. A photograph of your late grandparents on their wedding day might be poignant. The final scene of a sad movie could be described as poignant. The soldier's letter to his family was a poignant reminder of the human cost of war. Or, seeing my childhood home for the last time before it was sold was a poignant experience. It's a sadness that touches your heart deeply. What is something that you find poignant? A song, a memory, a story? The film's poignant ending left the entire audience in tears. It's a powerful word to describe a powerful emotional experience. Now, what about experiencing feelings through someone else? When you watch a movie and feel the excitement or fear of the main character, what is that called? The word is vicarious. 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 Vicarious pleasure or excitement is experienced in the imagination through the feelings or actions of another person. For example, my mother, who was always afraid of flying, got a vicarious thrill from hearing about my travels around the world. She experienced the thrill through you. Many people enjoy watching extreme sports to experience a vicarious sense of danger from the safety of their couches. It's a very common human experience. What is something you experience vicariously? I don't have any pets, but I get vicarious enjoyment from watching funny cat videos online. It's the perfect word for that feeling. Finally, let's end on a purely positive note with a word that describes a kind and generous character. The word is benevolent. Benevolent, benevolent. This adjective means well-meaning and kindly. The root bene means good, like in the words benefit or beneficial. A benevolent person is one who wishes good things for others. It's a more formal and powerful word than kind. You might describe a good king or ruler as a benevolent leader. The company's CEO had a reputation for being a benevolent man who cared deeply about his employees' well-being. You can also describe actions or organizations this way: a benevolent society, a benevolent gesture. Its opposite is malevolent, which means wishing to do evil to others. Think of someone you consider to be truly benevolent. What makes them so? My grandmother was a benevolent soul, always ready to help anyone in the neighborhood who was in need. Let's imagine one final scene. An old man is retiring from his job. At his farewell party, his younger colleague gives a speech. She says, "I was so nervous on my first day, but you were so benevolent and kind to me. I remember you made a facetious joke about the coffee machine always being broken, which made me relax. You were always so tactful when teaching me the ropes. Watching your success over the years has given me a vicarious thrill." This farewell is a truly poignant moment for all of us. You carry on with such a nonchalant grace, but we know you care deeply. Thank you. What a beautiful, expressive tribute. Each word is chosen to convey a very specific meaning, creating a rich and heartfelt message. And so, we've added another vast wing to our vocabulary museum. We've explored the strategic language of business, the precise terminology of ideas, and the nuanced words of human connection. The journey to an advanced vocabulary is a marathon, not a sprint. The key is to stay curious. When you encounter a new word, don't just skip over it, look it up. Understand its flavor. Try to make it your own. Create a flashcard, write it in a journal, or be brave and use it in your next conversation. Each word is a new tool, and you are the craftsperson. The more tools you have, the more beautifully and precisely you can build your ideas and express your true self in English. Keep building. Keep learning. Let's begin the final and perhaps most important leg of our journey together. We've talked about so many aspects of language, but language itself is not static. It lives, it breathes, and it changes. And just like language, we as learners are in a constant state of transformation. So for our final theme, let's explore the powerful vocabulary of change, growth, and transformation. These are the words that describe the very process we are engaged in right now, the process of becoming more articulate, more confident, and more expressive versions of ourselves. Let's start with the spark that ignites change. The word is catalyst, C-A-T-A-L-Y-S-T, a catalyst. In chemistry, a catalyst is a substance that causes or accelerates a chemical reaction without itself being affected. In everyday language, we use it metaphorically to describe a person or an event that precipitates a change. It is the trigger, the thing that starts a chain reaction. For instance, the new CEO was the catalyst for a complete restructuring of the company. Her arrival was the event that caused the massive change. Or, think historically, the invention of the printing press was a catalyst for the spread of knowledge and the Renaissance. It's a powerful word because it identifies the specific starting point of a major development. It's more precise than just saying it caused the change. It implies a more dynamic, reaction-starting role. What has been a catalyst for change in your own life? It could be a person, a book, a trip, or a decision. Think about it for a moment. Moving to a new country was the catalyst for me to take my English learning seriously. That's a perfect use of the word. Identifying the catalysts in our lives helps us understand our own stories. Once a catalyst sparks a change, a process of gradual development often begins. This brings us to the beautiful verb evolve. E-V-O-L-V-E, evolve. To evolve means to develop gradually, often from a simple to a more complex form. We most often associate it with biology and the theory of evolution, but it's a fantastic word for describing any kind of gradual, adaptive growth. Change can be sudden and abrupt, but evolve implies a slower, more natural, and often more profound transformation. You could say, her writing style has evolved over the years from simple blog posts to sophisticated long-form essays. Or, our company's business strategy needs to evolve to meet new market demands. It suggests adaptation and improvement over time. Think about your own English skills. They don't just change from one day to the next. They evolve. My understanding of English grammar has evolved from simply memorizing rules to having a more intuitive feel for the language. This is a wonderful way to describe your progress. It honors the slow, steady, and natural development you have worked so hard for. Every major evolution starts somewhere. When an idea, a project, or an industry is in its very early stages of development, we can describe it as nascent. Nascent. This elegant adjective means just coming into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential. It comes from a Latin word meaning to be born. You could talk about a nascent technology, like artificial intelligence was in the 1960s, or a nascent political movement that is just starting to gain supporters. The nascent renewable energy industry of the 1990s has now become a global powerhouse. It's a word filled with a sense of promise and early potential. Though she was only a high school student, you could see the nascent signs of a brilliant scientist in her. Can you think of something in your life or in the world that is nascent right now? A new hobby you're developing? A new company in your city? I have a nascent idea for a novel that I'm just beginning to explore. Using nascent perfectly captures that delicate, exciting, and undeveloped early stage of an idea. Now let's talk about the motivation behind our evolution. Why do we strive to grow? Sometimes the reason comes from within us. The word for this is intrinsic. Intrinsic. This adjective means belonging naturally or being an essential part of something. Intrinsic motivation is the desire to do something for its own sake because you find it enjoyable or fulfilling, rather than for some external reward like money or praise. For example, while she was paid well, her intrinsic motivation for being a nurse was her deep desire to help people. The desire was an essential part of who she was. Or, the intrinsic value of a liberal arts education is not just about getting a job, but about learning how to think critically. The value is built in. The opposite is extrinsic, which refers to external factors. This is a profound concept for language learning. While the extrinsic rewards are great, a better job, the ability to travel, the most powerful drive is often intrinsic. Ask yourself, what is the intrinsic reward you get from learning English? For me, the intrinsic pleasure of being able to understand a movie in its original language is the best reward. Recognizing your intrinsic motivation can keep you going when things get tough. Sometimes a change is so big, so fundamental, that it doesn't just evolve things, it completely overturns the old way of thinking. The term for this is a paradigm shift, P-A-R-A-D-I-G-M shift. A paradigm is a typical example, pattern, or model of something. So a paradigm shift is a fundamental change in the basic concepts and experimental practices of a scientific discipline, or a fundamental change in approach or underlying assumptions in any field. The classic example is the shift from the belief that the Earth was the center of the universe to the understanding that the Earth revolves around the sun. That was a massive paradigm shift in astronomy. More recently, the invention of the Internet created a paradigm shift in how we communicate and access information. In your personal life, a paradigm shift could be a sudden, deep realization that changes your entire worldview. Realizing that mistakes are opportunities to learn, not failures, was a paradigm shift in my approach to life. Can you think of a paradigm shift that has happened in your lifetime? The move from owning music on CDs to streaming it online was a paradigm shift for the entire music industry. It's a big, powerful term for a big, powerful change. Finally, not all continuation is positive. Sometimes negative patterns or ideas are kept alive for a long time. The verb for this is perpetuate, P-E-R-P-E-T-U-A-T-E. To perpetuate something means to make it continue indefinitely. While you can perpetuate a positive legacy, the word is most often used with a negative connotation, as in perpetuating a myth, a stereotype, or a cycle of violence. For example, Movies that portray scientists as socially awkward nerds perpetuate a harmful stereotype. This means they keep that unfair idea going. Lack of educational opportunities can perpetuate the cycle of poverty from one generation to the next. The goal of social progress is often to break the cycles that perpetuate inequality. Thinking critically, what is a common stereotype in your culture that you think should not be perpetuated? It's important that we don't perpetuate the idea that certain jobs are only for men or only for women. Being aware of this allows us to actively stop the continuation of harmful ideas. So let's bring it all together. The decision to learn a new language can be the catalyst that starts a profound personal transformation. Your skills begin to evolve, moving from a nascent stage of simple words to a more complex fluency. If you can find the intrinsic motivation, the pure joy of learning, you will progress much faster. Eventually, you might experience a paradigm shift in your own mind, no longer translating from your native language, but starting to think in English. When this happens, you have the power to build new connections and to challenge the harmful ideas that perpetuate misunderstanding, becoming a force for good in the world. And with that, our Advanced Vocabulary Masterclass comes to a close. We have journeyed through an incredible landscape of words, from the meticulous to the gregarious, the auspicious to the ephemeral, the plausible to the ambivalent, the seminal to the esoteric, the tactful to the poignant, and finally to the very words that describe change itself. We've armed you with a vocabulary that is not just advanced, but precise, powerful, and deeply expressive. Remember, this podcast, this collection of words, is just a beginning. It is a catalyst. The real evolution happens with you. Be curious. Be conscientious. When you read, listen for the music and nuance of the language. Don't be afraid to try a new word, to stumble, and to try again. Each attempt is a step in your evolution. The intrinsic joy of expressing a complex thought perfectly for the first time is a reward unlike any other. Thank you for spending this incredible amount of time with me today on English in Advance. I am Jessica, and it has been an absolute honor to be your guide. Your dedication to your own growth is truly inspiring. If this masterclass has helped you, please subscribe to the channel so you can join us for all of our future lessons. Share it with a friend who is also on their language learning journey. And please leave a comment to let us know which of these new words was your favorite. We build this community together. Never forget that learning a language is not about reaching a final destination. It's about the beautiful, lifelong journey of discovery. Be proud of how far you've come and be excited for all the new ways you'll be able to share your voice with the world. Until next time, keep learning and keep evolving.